Welcome to Tales by Candlelight, the video series in which I read your favourite, mostly gothic, short stories, poems, and extracts from longer works. You let me know what you think in the comments, and then I will treat you to a full-length analysis video over on our main Books and Cats channel. Tonight, I bequeath unto you an extract from one of my very favourite novels ever written. Just like Samuel Pepys's diary and Daniel Defoe's journal, the subjects of our previous two Tales by Candlelight videos, tonight's text also features depictions of bubonic plague, but there's nothing quite so horrifying, gothic, or gory in this one. The extract I'm going to read from this, Maggie O'Farrell's Hamnet, is a thoughtful, sensitive reimagining of how plague arrived in England in the 1590s. If you've not read this novel, this part isn't really a spoiler, so don't worry about that, but do grab yourself a copy ASAP because it is truly a beautiful read. Before we get started, apologies once again for sounding snuffly. I have a cold, not the plague, so sorry if my reading is a little bit off. A big thank you to our patrons over on Patreon and channel members here on YouTube for supporting Books and Cats and our Tales by Candlelight series. Just a brief note that tonight's reading contains depictions of animal cruelty, illness, and death. And without further ado, get a cup of tea, dim the lights, snuggle down in your blanket, and please enjoy the reading. For the pestilence to reach Warwickshire, England, in the summer of 1596, two events need to occur in the lives of two separate people, and then these people need to meet. The first is a glassmaker on the island of Murano in the Principality of Venice. The second is a cabin boy on a merchant ship sailing for Alexandria on an unseasonably warm morning with an easterly wind. Several months before the day Judith takes to her bed, as the year is turning from 1595 to 1596, the master glassmaker, who is skilled in the layering of 5 or 6 colours to produce the star or flower-patterned glass beads known as millefiori, is momentarily distracted by a fight breaking out between the stokers across the glassworks. His hand slips, and 2 of his fingers enter the roaring white flame that was, a moment earlier, heating the bulb of glass to stretchable, malleable gum. The pain is so severe that it goes beyond sensation, and at first he cannot feel it at all. He cannot think what has happened, why everyone is staring, then running towards him. There is a smell of roasting meat, a yelling almost canine in its intensity, a flurry around him. The result, later in the day, is 2 amputations. One of his fellow workers, then, is the one to pack up the tiny red, yellow, blue, green and purple beads into boxes the following day. This man doesn't know that the master glassmaker, now at home, bandaged and dosed into a stupor with poppy syrup, usually pads and packs the beads with wood shavings and sand to prevent breakage. He grabs instead a handful of rags from the glassworks floor and tucks them in and around the beads, which look like hundreds of tiny, alert, accusing eyes staring up at him. In Alexandria, at exactly the same moment, all the way across the Mediterranean Sea, the cabin boy must leave his ship for Judith to contract the pestilence and for a tragedy to be set in motion halfway across the world. He must receive orders to go ashore and find some victuals for his hungry and overworked shipmates. So he does. He goes down the gangplank, clutching the purse given to him by the midshipman, along with a short, sharp kick in the backside which would explain the boy's listing, limping gait. His crewmates are hauling crates of Malaysian cloves and Indian indigo off the ship before taking on sacks of coffee beans and bales of textiles. The dockside, under the cabin boy's feet, is disconcertingly firm and solid after weeks at sea. Nevertheless, he staggers off towards what looks to him like a tavern, passing a stall selling spiced nuts, a woman holding a snake about her neck. He pauses to look at a man with a monkey on a golden chain. Why? Because he has never seen a monkey before. Because he loves animals of all kinds. Because he is, after all, not much older than Hamnet, who is, at this very moment, sitting in a cold, wintry schoolroom, watching the schoolmaster hand out hornbooks of Greek poetry. The monkey, at the port of Alexandria, is wearing a little red jacket and a matching hat. Its back is curved and soft, like that of a puppy, but its face is expressive, oddly human as it peers up at the boy. The cabin boy, a young lad from a Manx family, looks at the monkey, and the monkey looks at the boy. The animal puts its head on one side, eyes bead bright, and chatters softly, a slight judder of sound, its voice light and fluting. It reminds the boy of an instrument his uncle plays at gatherings on the Isle of Man, and for a moment He's back at his sister's churching, at his cousin's wedding, back in the safety of his kitchen at home, where his mother would be gutting a fish, telling him to mind his boots, to wipe his shirt front, to eat up now. Where his uncle would be playing his flute, and everyone speaking the language he had grown up with, and no one would be yelling at him or kicking him or telling him what to do, and later on there might be dancing and singing. Tears prick the eyes of the cabin boy, and the monkey, still regarding him with a sentient and understanding gaze, reaches out its hand. The fingers on the monkey's hand are familiar and strange to the boy, all at once. Black and shiny like boot leather, with nails like apple pips. Its palm, though, is striated, just like the boy's, and there passes between them, there, under the palm trees that line the wharf, the confluence of sympathy that can flow between human and beast. The boy feels the golden chain, as if it is around his own neck. The monkey sees the boy's sadness, his longing for home, the bruises on his legs, the blisters and calluses on his fingers, the peeling skin on his shoulders from the relentless scorch of months in the ocean sun. The boy holds out his hand to the monkey, and the monkey takes it. Its grip is surprisingly strong. It speaks of urgency, of maltreatment, of need, of craving for kind company. The monkey climbs up the boy's arm, using all four of its feet, across his shoulders and up onto his head, where it sits, paws buried in the boy's hair. Laughing, the boy puts up a hand to be sure of what's happening. Yes, there's a monkey sitting on his head. He feels himself fill with numerous, warring urges to run about the dockside, shouting to his crewmates, "Look at me! Look!" To tell his little sister this, to say, "You'll never guess what happened to me. A monkey sat on my head." To keep the monkey for himself. To dart away, to jerk the chain from the man's hand and sprint up the gangplank and disappear into the ship. And to cradle this creature in his arms forever, never let it go. The man is getting to his feet, gesturing at the boy. He has skin that is pocked and scarred, a mouthful of blackened teeth, an eye that doesn't quite match its pair in either direction or colour. He's rubbing the fingers of his hand together in the universal language that means money. The boy shakes his head. The monkey clings tighter, curling its tail about the boy's neck. The man with the scarred, pocked skin bears down, gripping the boy's arm. He repeats his gestures. Money, he is insisting, money. He points at the monkey, then makes the gesture again. Again, the boy shakes his head, presses his lips together, puts a protective hand over the purse tied to his belt. He knows what will happen to him if he returns to the ship without food, without ale. He will carry the memory of the midshipman's lash, given to him 12 times in Malacca and 7 times in Gala, 10 in Mogadishu, forever. "No," says the boy. "No." The man lets out a stream of angry words into the boy's face. The language they speak in this place called Alexandria is jabbing, nicking like the point of a knife. The man reaches up to seize the monkey, which chatters and then shrieks, a piercing high cry of distress, gripping the boy's hair, the collar of his shirt, the tiny black nails scoring the skin of his neck. The boy, almost sobbing now, tries to hold on to his new friend. For a moment he has him, by the forelimb, the warm fur of the elbow fitted into his palm, but then the man jerks the chain and the monkey falls, screaming, from the boy's grasp, to the cobbled dock, where it rights itself and then, tugged again, scrambles after the man, whimpering. Aghast, the boy watches the animal leave, the hunch of its back, the workings of its haunches, trying to keep up with its master. He swipes at his face, at his eyes, his head feeling bare and empty, wishing that he might bring the moment back, that he could have somehow persuaded the man to let him keep it. The monkey belonged to him. Surely anyone could see that. What the boy doesn't know, can't know, was that the monkey leaves part of itself behind. In the scuffle, it has shed 3 of its fleas. One of these fleas falls, unseen, to the ground, where the boy will unwittingly crush it with the sole of his foot. The second stays for a while in the sandy hair of the boy, making its way to the front of his crown. When he is paying for a flagon of the local brew in the tavern, it will make a leap, an agile, arching spring from his forehead to the shoulder of the innkeeper. The third of the monkey's fleas will remain where it fell, in the fold of the red cloth tied around the boy's neck, given to him by his sweetheart at home. Later, When the boy has returned to the ship for the night, having eaten a dinner of some of the spiced nuts and a curious patty of bread shaped like a pancake, he will pick up his favourite of the ship's cats, an animal mostly white but with a striped tail, and nuzzle it against his neck. The flea, alert to the presence of a new host, will transfer itself from the boy's neckerchief to the thick, milk-white fur of the cat's neck. This cat, feeling unwell, and with the feline's unerring eye for those who dislike it, will take up residence the next day in the hammock of the midshipman. When he that night comes to his hammock, he will curse at the now dead animal he finds there, turn it unceremoniously out, kicking it across the room. 4 or 5 fleas, one of which once belonged to the monkey, will remain where the cat lay. The monkey's flea is a clever one, intent on its survival and success in the world. It makes its way, by springing and leaping, to the fecund and damp armpit of the sleeping, snoring midshipman, there to gorge itself on rich, alcohol-laced sailor blood. 3 days out past Damascus, and heading for Aleppo, the quartermaster enters the cabin to report that the midshipman is unwell and confined below. The captain nods, still examining his charts and sextant, and thinks nothing more of it. The next day, he receives word, as he stands on the upper deck, that the midshipman is raving, foaming at the mouth, his head quite pushed sideways by a tumour in his neck. The captain frowns as the quartermaster speaks these words into his ear, then gives orders for the ship's physician to visit the man. "Oh," the quartermaster then adds, "and several of the ship's cats seem to have expired." Sorry, mouse. The captain turns his face to regard the quartermaster. The expression on his face is one of distaste, bafflement. "Cats, you say?" The quartermaster nods respectfully, eyes cast down. How very peculiar. The captain thinks for a moment longer, then flicks his finger towards the sea. "Throw 'em overboard." The deceased cats, 3 in all, are taken by their striped tails and flung into the Mediterranean. The cabin boy watches from a hatch in the deck, wiping his eyes with his red scarf. Shortly afterwards, they dock at Aleppo, where they offload more of the clothes and a portion of the coffee and several score rats, which make a dash for the shore. The ship's physician knocks on the door of the captain's cabin, where he is conferring about weather and sails with his second officer. "Ah," says the captain, "how is the man, midshipman?" The physician scratches under his wig and smothers a belch. "Dead, sir." The captain frowns, surveying the man, taking in his crooked wig, the potent smell of rum off him. "By what cause?" The physician, a man more suited to setting bones and extracting teeth, looks up, as if the answer might be found on the low, planked ceiling of the cabin. "A fever, sir," he says, with a drunkard's decisiveness. "A fever?" "An Afric fever would be," the physician slurs, "my opinion. He's turned all black, you see, in patches around the limbs, and also in other places I will refrain from mentioning here, in this salubrious place, and so it is necessary for me to conclude that he must have taken ill and—" "I see." The captain cuts him off by turning away from him, towards his charts, the matter dealt with as far as he is concerned. The second officer clears his throat. "We shall, sir," he says, "arrange a sea burial." The midshipman is wrapped in a sheet and brought up on deck. The sailors nearby cover their noses and mouths with cloth. The corpse is excessively odorous. The captain gives a short reading from the Bible. He, too, is struggling with the dead man's smell, despite 25 years at sea and more watery funerals than he can recall. "In the name of the Father," the captain enunciates, raising his voice above the sounds of discreet retching at the back, "the Son, and the Holy Ghost, we commend this body unto the waves. You," he gestures at the 2 sailors nearest him, yes, overboard." They dart forward and, with green faces, lift the corpse up and over the side. The choppy, pleated surface of the Mediterranean folds over the body of the midshipman. By the time they reach Constantinople, with an order to collect a consignment of furs from the north, the cats are all dead and the rat population is becoming a problem. They are eating through the crates and getting at the dried meat rations, the second officer tells the captain. There were 15 or 16 of them in the cook's quarters this morning. The men are demoralised, he says, keeping his eyes on the line of the horizon out the window, and several more have fallen ill overnight. 2 more men die, then a third, and a fourth, all with the same Afric fever that swells the neck and turns the skin red and blistered and black in places. The captain is forced to make an unscheduled stop in Ragusa to take on more sailors, for whom he has no references or recommendations, which is the kind of hasty, slipshod seamanship he likes to avoid. These new sailors are shifty-eyed, snaggle-toothed. They keep to themselves and speak very little, and only in some kind of Polack language. The Manx crew distrust them on sight and will not communicate with them or willingly share quarters. The Polacks, however, are skilled at killing rats. They approach it as a sport, baiting a string with food, then lying in wait with an enormous shovel. When the creature appears, sleek with drooping belly, gorged as it is on the sailors' rations, the Polacks leap on it, shouting, singing, and beat it to death, rat brains and entrails sprayed on the walls and ceilings. They then cut off the tails and string them to their belts, passing around a clear liquid in a bottle from which they all drink. "Turns your stomach," one of the Manx sailors says to the cabin boy, watching from across the cabin. "Doesn't it?" Then he swats at his neck, his shoulder. The place is overrun with fleas. "Damned rats," he growls to himself, and turns over in his hammock. At Venice, they don't plan to dock for long. The captain is keen to get his cargo back to England, to recoup his fee, to get this hellish voyage over with. But while the unloading and loading take place, he gives an order to the cabin boy to find some cats for the ship. The cabin boy leaps eagerly down to the dockside. He is more than keen to leave the ship, its cramped low ceilings and stink of rat and fever and death. Today, 2 more men are confined to their quarters with fever, one a Manxman like himself, the other one of the Polacks, his rat-tail-adorned belt hung up beside him. The boy has been in Venice once before, on his first voyage, and it is as he remembers it, a strange hybrid place, half of sea, half of land, where the steps of houses are lapped by jade-green waters and windows are lit by the guttering flares of candles, where there are no streets but narrow alleyways leading off each other in a dizzying labyrinth and arch-backed bridges. A place where you might very easily lose your way among the fog and angled squares and the high buildings and tolling church bells. For a moment, he watches the crew, who are hauling crates and sacks between them, shouting in a mixture of Manx and Polack and English. A Venetian man pushes a cart towards them, loaded with boxes. He too starts shouting, in Venetian. He is gesturing to the sailors, to his boxes, while gripping his cart, and the boy sees that the first 2 fingers of his hand are missing, and the rest of the hand is of a strange puckered texture, like melted candle wax. He is calling to the sailors, gesturing at the ship with his good hand, at his boxes, and the boy can see that the cart is about to lurch sideways, that the boxes will soon be spilt all over the dockside. He leaps forward, rights the cart, grins at the surprised face of the man with the mangled hand, then darts away because he has seen, underneath a stall selling fish, the whiskered, triangular faces of several cats. Unbeknown to them both, the flea that came from the Alexandrian monkey, which has, for the last week or so, been living on a rat, and before that the cook who died near Aleppo, leaps from the boy to the sleeve of the master glassmaker, whereupon it makes its way up to his left ear and bites him there, behind the lobe. He doesn't feel it, as the cool air of the misty canal has rendered his extremities sensationless, and he is intent only on getting these boxes of beads aboard the ship, receiving his payment, then returning to Murano, where he has many orders to fulfill, and the fire-stokers are sure to be fighting again during his brief absence. By the time the ship is rounding the heel of Sicily, the second officer has fallen ill with the Afric fever, his fingers purple and black, his body so hot that the sweat drips through the knots of his hammock to the floor below. They bury him at sea, along with 2 Polacks, outside Naples. The Venetian cats, when not killing rats, stay true to their origins, choosing to sleep in the hold, on the boxes of beads from Murano. There is something about their wooden surfaces, their knotted ties, their chalked markings and the Venetian on the side that evidently appeals to them. Because not many people go into the hold during a voyage, when the cats die, and they do, in succession, one by one, their bodies remain unfound on top of these boxes. The fleas that leap from the dying rats into their striped fur crawl down into these boxes and take up residence in the rags padding the hundreds of tiny multicoloured millefiori beads, the same rags put there by the fellow worker of the master glassmaker, the same glassmaker who is now in Murano, where the glassworks is at a standstill because so many of the workers are falling ill with a mysterious and virulent fever. At Barcelona, the remaining Polacks jump ship, disappearing into the melee of the port. The captain sets his teeth and tells the men they will carry on, depleted as they are. They will deliver their crates of cloves and fabric and coffee, and they will set sail. The men do as they are told. The ship docks at Cadiz, then Porto, then La Rochelle, with more men lost along the way, then north, finally, to Cornwall. When they sail into London, they are down to a crew of 5. The cabin boy goes off to find a ship heading to the Isle of Man, the once red scarf still tied around his neck, the sole surviving female Venetian cat tucked under his arm. The other 3 men head to a tavern at the furthest end of London Bridge. The captain orders a horse to take him home to his wife and family. The cargo, unloaded and stacked in Custom House, is gradually distributed throughout London. The cloves and spices and textiles and coffee to merchants, to be sold on. The silks to the palace, the glassware to a dealer in Bermondsey, the textile bales to cloth workers and haberdashers in Aldgate. The boxes of glass beads, crafted by the glassmaker on the island of Murano just before he injured his hand, lie on the shelf in a warehouse for almost a month. Then one is dispatched to a dressmaker in Shrewsbury, another in York, a jeweller in Oxford. The final box, the smallest of the lot, still wrapped in rags from the floor of the Venetian glassworks, is sent by messenger to an inn at the north edge of the city, where it remains for a week. It is then carried outside by the innkeeper and, along with a parcel of letters and a packet of lace, is given to a man heading into Warwickshire on horseback. His leather saddlebag gives off a rhythmic click, click, click as he rides, the beads jostling together with the movement of the horse, turning their 6 colours around and around, rubbing against each other. For the 2 days of the journey, he idly wonders to himself what could be in the wrapped box, what could give off such a minute, clean sound. 2 of the beads break, crushed by the weight of their replicas. 5 are scratched irreparably on their surfaces. The heavier ones work their way gradually, with each jolt of the horse, to the bottom. The fleas in the rags crawl out, hungry and depleted by their hostless stay in the wharfhouse. Soon, however, they are recovered, rejuvenated, springing from horse to man and back again, then out onto the various people the rider encounters on the way, a woman who gives him a quart of milk, a child who comes to pat his horse, a young man at a roadside tavern. By the time the rider reaches Stratford, the fleas have laid eggs. In the seams of his doublet, in the mane of the horse, in the stitching of the saddle, in the filigree and weave of the lace, in the rags surrounding the beads. These eggs are the great-grandchildren of the monkey flea. He delivers the letters, the packet of lace and the box of beads into the hands of an innkeeper on the outskirts of the town. The letters are delivered, one by one, to their recipients, by a boy in return for a penny. One, incidentally, arrives at Henley Street, for the husband in London has written to his family, telling them how he has sprained his wrist by falling down some steps, about a dog owned by his landlord, the play they are about to take on tour, all the way into Kent. The packet of lace is collected, after a day or 2, by a woman from Evesham. The rider turns his horse back towards London, noticing that the movement causes him some discomfort. There seems to be some painful, tender spot in his armpit, but he ignores it and continues on his way. The box of beads is taken by the same delivery boy to a seamstress in Ely Street. She has an order for a new gown for the wife of a guildsman who will wear it at the harvest fair. It is said that the wife has visited London and also Bath in her time, so has refined ideas about dress. She told the seamstress that she must have a bodice decorated with Venetian beads, or else the dress will be worth nothing to her. Nothing. And so the seamstress sent to London, who in turn sent to Venice, and they waited, and the wife of the guildsman fretted that the beads might not arrive in time, and they sent a second letter to London and heard nothing back. But here they are. The seamstress reaches through the hatch and takes the box from the boy. She's about to open it when her neighbour's child, Judith, who helps with the stitching and the tidying of coloured twists and the cutting of cloth, comes through the door. The seamstress holds aloft the box. "Look," she says to the girl, who is small for her age, and fair as an angel with a nature to match. The girl clasps her hands together. The beads from Venice! Are they here? The seamstress laughs. I believe so. Can I look? Can I see? I cannot wait. The seamstress puts the box on her counter. You may do more than that. You may be the one to open them. You'll need to cut away all these nasty old rags. Take up the scissors there. She hands the girl the box of Millefiori beads, and Judith takes it, her hands eager and quick, her face lit with a smile. I hope you loved listening to a bit of Hamnet as much as I enjoyed reading it. And if you want to listen to more plague-related literature, check out my reading of extracts from Daniel Defoe's A Journal of the Plague Year by clicking here next.